Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, bringing you the player ratings from yesterday's disaster 1-0 loss to Pacos de Ferreira in the Europa Conference League. I can't believe I'm saying this, but before we get into it, guys, make sure you smash a like on the stream and a subscribe on the channel if you're new. Jack, how are you after yesterday's result, my man?
Not keeping too well, David, after yesterday's defeat. Honestly, wasn't a good one to tell the missus about. Wasn't a good one to go to bed to as well. But let's just break down these player ratings. You know, we've definitely spent plenty of times before, on player ratings. I definitely know the Harris Army loves our player ratings. So let's just crack into it, David. I'm just going to bring it up if that's all right. I think we just want to get it over and done with. For the Harris Army, we're going to add a bit of something to this where we're going to have all of our player ratings that we made between David and I down on the bottom here below, and you're just going to have to look at them and guess which ones we're going to drag them towards, which ones we think, are going to be deserving such poor ratings today. Hopefully in the future, David, we might be seeing, a huge selection of really high ratings, but for this game, it's not going to be a good one. But yeah, starting off in goal, Galini, David, for me, didn't actually really have a lot to do, just was kind of, rocking the Spurs baseball cap, as well as the sun in his eyes. He seemed to get a good tan, but he couldn't save that one big chance for Pacos as well. Really that was the only real chance that he had to challenge, and he didn't really maybe deserve that kind of conceding of a goal, but as well, I don't think we deserve to score. So honestly, it's kind of a forgettable performance for Galini, and definitely not the first one I think of when I think of this awful performance, David. So I'm going to give him a 5.5 if that's all right with you. What do you think of the 5.5?
Yeah, look, I think it's a fair rating. Look, let's be honest, he didn't really have too much to do. I know they went through on goal, but there's nothing he could do. It's a one-on-one. He tried his best. Look, one thing you did, I think it was you that said it during the game last night, Jack, when we were watching it together, that his kicking range is very, very good, and we need to learn to exploit that. He can definitely ping one straight in behind. And just when I was thinking about what you said last night, and I think it's a very good point, because even if he does step in, like say if Hugo gets an injury or whatever, and he does have to step in, with Son, Lucas and Bergwijn running in behind the fences, this guy can just ping one long and catch them out. So look, that's the only positive kind of to take from his performance yesterday. Apart from the goal conceded, he didn't have a lot to do, and I think a 5.5 is fair.
Yeah, definitely fair. Moving on maybe to the right center back position, David. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here, David. I do think Carter Vickers was absolutely atrocious. I think we kind of found out, why he really isn't, the player that we've ever really considered for the first team for most part, why he's been sent out on loan all the time. Maybe even a bit of the American, Techers maybe came out in terms of that touch that he had last night at the top of his own box, David. It was honestly embarrassing, to share the same passport as him, after a touch like that, David. So I will say Carter Vickers, I'm just going to give him the 0, David. It's just going to be the 0. I really do think that this was a game for him to be able to prove that, he can actually, stand up to the test for a game like this against a side like this. I thought this would be, his breakout game for Spurs, but I think, David, this is maybe the last of chances, I think, for Carter Vickers to be able to break into the first team.
Yeah, look, for me, this guy has more loans than a person on the verge of bankruptcy, Jack. Honestly, it's absolutely ridiculous. Look, this guy yesterday, I'll be honest with you, it was a chance for him to put himself in the shop window, but also maybe put himself in front of Nuno and say, look, for games like this, I'm your man. And look, he just didn't do it yesterday. Honestly, the goal was his fault. The striker ran off him yesterday, and he just let him go. Now, you're in a situation, okay? First of all, you have two things you need to do. If you are going to let him go, you communicate with Romero and you pass him on. He didn't do that. Second of all, with the run he made, you don't pass him on. You drop back, you make that run, and you follow back. And you prevent the ball from coming in, and you prevent him getting one-on-one with the keeper. He didn't do that. He let him run. That's what got him in one-on-one, and he scored the goal. But not only that, Jack, near the end of the game at one stage, the ball's coming in, no pressure on him, just kind of like, clear your lines. Completely just kicks fresh air. It was embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing. If someone kicked fresh air like that in front of me, I would absolutely slaughter them. Even just on a game of Astro 5-a-side, because it's not acceptable, let alone doing it at a professional level. And look, the guy also, he came off with an ankle injury yesterday, but look, something needs to click with this guy. He needs to focus. It was an absolute abysmal performance yesterday. Abysmal from this guy. And I think a 0 for me, I think is very, very fair. I'll be honest with you. I think, Jack, you might have wanted to give him a little something because you're not as harsh as me. You know what I mean? But honestly, this player rating, I'll take full responsibility for it. Anyone that doesn't agree with it, blame me, because I think he was atrocious and I think he deserves that big fat 0 beside his name. I'm sick of being nice to these players, trying to build them up, and people saying we need to build them up, we need to be positive and stuff. Look, they're not Lionel Messi, they're not Cristiano Ronaldo, they're not Sergio Ramos. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if they want to get to that level, they have to take the criticism and come back to be better. You think the top players in the world didn't take criticism and use that as motivation every single day? This is what this guy needs to do. And I'm on a crusade and a campaign to start doing that, because honestly, until you get players with that mentality in the club, we're not going to win anything. We're not going to go anywhere. So we need to change the mentality. And I'm on a collision course to do that, I'll be honest with you, because like I said, they're not the best players in the world. So, they have to take the criticism. I'm not going to butter them up like they are either. I'm just not going to do it. He was abysmal yesterday.
No, it definitely was abysmal. And also as well, it seemed like Nuno, after that, play that you were describing where, he's kicking air, David, it seemed like Nuno was also just as embarrassed as maybe you were, to see him wearing the badge. Moving on to Christian Romero. Christian Romero definitely had, a bit of that calamitous mistake when it came to the goal that we conceded. Definitely didn't let that pass go way too easily. Seemed to, not be maybe fully alert, a bit too aggressive, I would say. And they just slipped the ball right through him and behind. Definitely were, 3 defenders, though, still there, though, 3 center backs there to be able to prevent that ball, to be able to read that. Carter Vickers easily could have also tracked his man on that. So I'm really not going to read too much into Christian Romero's performance as well. I think he was paired with 2, you might say some of our worst center backs to offer. You'd probably say, paired with him. So I really don't want to read too much into his performance, David. So I am going to actually give him a 5. I do think he took a huge part in that goal that we conceded. So I'm not going to, big him up or anything for it. But I also don't want to, slate too much into him, considering that really was his first real performance. And so, David, for me, it's a 5 for Christian.
For me, I'd agree with you. Look, for the goal, it's like he tried to play offside, and the rest didn't follow. Look, at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to blame him too much for anything. We brought him in because of his aggressive style and his aggressive nature. So, the players around him, you expect to feed off that. If you're Davies and Carter Vickers, this guy is going to come out and engage. You just drop that little bit deeper behind him and you cover that. They didn't do it. For me, look, once you put him in with the likes of a culpable right back, a culpable left back, and, he's going to do just fine. For me, look, you're putting him with 2 of the worst options we've ever had at this club. So, honestly, look, a 5 I think is fair, but I wouldn't be reading too much into the debut. You look at Højbjerg's debut against Everton last season, shocker. You look at Reguilon's debut, he had a shocker. You know what I mean? But they've come good for the club.
Fair play. Yeah, definitely, David. Moving on to Ben Davies, Mr. Anonymous here. Mr. Anonymous, I will say, is honestly similar to Carter Vickers, starting to absolutely, lose complete patience. Ben Davies, is definitely a better defender, I would say, than Carter Vickers, but really, it just doesn't seem like there's a position that these guys really should be paid to play football in. For me, Ben Davies, I kind of almost just want to get through him quickly. He wasn't spectacular in any way. I don't think he did anything of any sort of redeemable quality in terms of his ability. I'm just going to give him a 3, David. That's what this 3 is for Ben Davies. Honestly, an anonymous rating, an anonymous player, an unremarkable player. I really will say, I thought this could be a game where he could shine as, left-sided center back in a back 3. Clearly can't. I don't think he's really suited for just any position in this Nuno system, David. I'm giving him a 3.
Yeah, look, I nicknamed him Mr. Anonymous about 7-8 months ago, if not longer. And look, yesterday's performance was exactly the reason why. The only thing the guy did do was pick up the ball off Harry Winks and give it back to Harry Winks. That's literally all he done all game. So for me, I think a 3 is fair. Look, he's an experienced player out there. People call these, not just him, but others. And they call them squad players. These are the games they're supposed to step in and be the leaders. This is what they're for. This is their bread and butter, apparently. And what's killing me is that smile on his face there on the picture after that performance last night. That kills me. The reason why he's smiling that much in that picture, Jack, is because he knows he is robbing a living at Tottenham Hotspur. Short and sweet. Let's move on.
Absolutely. And moving on to Sessegnon there, David. Sessegnon, this was kind of a bit of an interesting one. I really thought, he really could have performed better considering like he was, it seemed like he was working really hard, David. It seems like he had, the right intent. He was trying to get forward. He was trying to cause problems, but it just seemed a bit also, a bit underwhelming in terms of his technical ability. Plenty of his touches, were way too far ahead of him. He didn't seem even as strong as well when players would step in front of him. He didn't seem to, know how to navigate that as well. He seemed to kind of dribble into, an alley, and kind of into closed corners, into, closed alleys. It just really seemed like, he wasn't maybe on it. I do think, he was paired with, not a lot of exceptional performances alongside him, but I don't think Sessegnon was actually that remarkable. There are plenty of moments where I thought he could have done something a bit better. And as well, the very beginning of the game, Brian Hill definitely set him up with a pretty good chance there, and he just got caught under his feet with the ball in the box. So you have to also consider that as well. So I am going to actually give Sessegnon here the 5.5. For me, it's tough, David. I think he was doing all the right things. It just really was, a situation where I think he could have definitely been a bit better. He could have definitely been a bit better for me.
No, do you know what? I'd agree with you. For me, look, all his ideas were right, but he just doesn't have the minutes in him right now, just to be able to pull it off technically and up to standard. Look, he's been injured all preseason. He's not too long back. I think he only came back into training before the City game. He's definitely not up to speed. He looked a bit off the pace yesterday. But one thing I will say, all his ideas were right. Between him, Gill, they can't do it all. They need help. They need, like, there's runs he made where, the ball could have been put in behind. It wasn't. He's had to come back, check his run, take the ball to feet, and then try and make something happen. Look, I don't blame entirely everything on him, but I think you've summed it up perfectly. Look, ideas are right, just needs more minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think that's well said as well. Moving on to the other fullback in our back three, back five system, David. It's going to be a 1 for me for Doherty. I think the reason he gets a 1, David, is simply not for anything that he had to do on the football pitch. Simply, it's just more the facial expressions that he has. He does a really good job at convincing you that he's working hard. He's doing a really good job at convincing you that he's thinking the right things, doing the right things. When in fact, David, he's doing honestly the complete opposite. For me, it's a 1. I think he's just a bit better of a footballer than Carter Vickers, but similar to Carter Vickers, is an absolute fraud. Honestly, it's a crime that these guys are being paid to play football, considering the performance that they put on, especially Matt Doherty. I'm really concerned, considering that also Nuno is the Doherty whisperer. It's really not looking good. It's really not looking good for Matt. I'm going to give him a 1, David. What do you think?
Yeah, look, again, I actually think 1 is being generous, to be honest with you. I do think it's being generous. Look, for me, it kills me that this guy is the Irish representation at Tottenham. We've had some great Irish players representing Tottenham down the years. Even the Ginger Pele, the original Doherty, he was better than this guy. You could play him centre back and striker, and he'd do a job for you. This guy, honestly, I'm getting fed up with this guy. Jack, he started off trying to do the right things. He was getting forward, right? But anytime he getting in a position, he just passes it inside, but then the 5-yard pass that should be simple, he just doesn't get right, which means then he can't get the return, and he's afraid to get on the ball and try and bomb by somebody and make something happen.
Yeah,
this is supposedly his preferred formation, playing as a right wing back, right? But as he was trying to do the right things and he couldn't execute the basics, which was a 5-yard pass, basically, he became more and more negative as the game went on, to the point near the end, when we're 1-0 down looking for a goal. Between him, Winks, and Davies, they actually thought it would be a good idea. So Doherty would get the ball, pass it into Winks. Winks would pass it out to Davies. Davies then would pass it back inside to Harry Winks, who would then pass it back across to Doherty. We're 1-0 down. These are supposed to be the senior players, right? These are supposed to be the senior players trying to make stuff happen, trying to get us back into the game, supposedly out there to show leadership. And they completely shirted it once again. It's what we come to expect from these players time and time again. For me, I think it was absolutely atrocious, negative. It got to the point where he was just afraid to lose the ball, so he was just literally passing it into Harry Winks just to be safe. Honestly, and I'm like you, I'm sick of it. I said it to you yesterday. Look, this guy, he always has this facial expression when the camera's on him. It's like, oh, I'm trying so hard. Try harder. Just try harder. Be better. Please. I'm sick of these frauds. I am sick of them. I'm sick and tired of these players, all saying the right things and, looking in the facial expressions. You want to say the right things and put on facial expressions, go to Hollywood. Go to Hollywood and audition for a movie, right? You're at Tottenham Hotspur. It's a football club. Do the basics. Just please do the basics. I'm sick of people, shirting responsibility and looking like they're trying hard and saying the right things. Just do it. Just do it. This guy, honestly, I think it won.
They're all good actors, David. I will say, I think they're all very good actors. They're all very good actors. They all put up the impression of being footballers. But, David, I think we should move on maybe, to Gio here. What do you think about Gio? For me, it's going to be a 4. It's going to be a 4. And then, alongside, someone that I do think that shall not be named, we are going to give him a not applicable. I just feel like this player, I don't think he deserves his surname being mentioned. I don't think he deserves a lot, at more than maybe even 30 seconds about his performance even being mentioned because it was that horrible. I'm going to give him a non-applicable. I think it's going to be the same for David. To be honest, for David, David might think that's too nice of a rating, giving him a not applicable. But yeah, no more to him. No more to him. But David, Gio Lo Celso, an opportunity for him to absolutely tear apart, some players from Portugal there, the Pacos team, really, we did make some jokes about them being, a bit more of a farmers team, but they definitely did step up to the plate. But I still feel like, someone like Gio Lo Celso should be able to tear apart players like this, should be able to tear apart defenses like this. He seemed to either be kind of individually marked the whole game. There seemed to be a man on him, made it very difficult for him. But still, David, honestly, we're giving him way too many excuses sometimes. I really do think that this guy needs to step it up in order to, maybe satisfy, the fee that we got him for, as well as the wages and even the reputation. Players like Messi saying that, he really rates this guy. I'm still waiting to really see that, especially considering this fall from form that we've seen from Gio. And I think this is another case for it. Just a real concerning performance from him.
Look, with this guy, it's the same thing as that other guy who shall not be mentioned in beside him, that Plank, right? I'm now comparing him to Harry Stinks because everything I see from him, right? Like, the thing is, everything I see about this guy, right? So he had a good couple of games towards the back end of the first season under Jose Mourinho. And people keep referring off, we can get that Lo Celso, we can get that Lo Celso. That was a year and a half ago. Let's be honest, right? People still talk about Harry Stinks about that Real Madrid game 3-4 years ago, right? If we can get that player, we're 3-4 years down the line. We're already a year and a bit down the line with Lo Celso. And honestly, again, last night, the guy couldn't pass the ball 5 yards. Could not do the basics right. Couldn't get the ball under control. He's supposed to be in the team to do this. He's in that midfield there to be the creator and done absolutely nothing. Look, I have serious doubts about this guy. And he's one I'll be keeping my eye on very, very closely.
No, definitely one that's going to be joining, last chance saloon, till January, definitely group. This one's going to feel a bit harsh, David, and maybe you can, tell me, a bit different. But now, John, I really wanted to give him a higher rating, but he was really, really, really anonymous in this whole game. I really feel like he was barely on the ball. Sometimes I forgot that he was even on the pitch at times. I think he had really good performances in our friendlies. I really don't want to, rate it this poorly, but he was also taken off early at halftime. I do think it was a poor performance from John. He didn't really seem to do much in the attack, didn't seem to do much defensively. I was a bit concerned, but I don't think I'm concerned at all about his future or, even his prospects, for Spurs. I just think, last night was, pretty poor performance. What do you think?
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, he's pretty anonymous, but again, when your midfielders can't keep hold of the ball or,
it's hard to be good when the rest of them are been this. When the rest of them, as we saw, were that terrible. As from the ratings you saw, the rest of the midfield being that horrible, it is hard to stand out. So maybe that again is a bit harsh of a rating on John, but that that's what we're going to go with, I think, David.
Yeah, look, I think it's fair. Look, he was pretty anonymous. Look, but again, I'm not going to go too harsh on the young kid. He's playing in beside two very, very experienced players. He should have been a breeze in there for him last night. It turns out it wasn't, but again, I don't blame him if people can't keep the ball. What do you expect? And then that other guy in beside him, that plonker sitting right in the middle. Jack, what did I do in a previous life? Please tell me. What did I do in a previous life to deserve that? Honestly,
I don't know,
all
David.
I want to say on this guy is I predicted it on the preview. I predicted exactly where they were going to get the goal from. I didn't want it to come true, but it's come true. When I'm starting to predict these things, and I'm just a fan, a little boy from Ireland, he has to go. But next, I cannot talk about this guy. I will end up in hospital with a heart attack. Next.
Next one here, David, is Dane Scarlett. Dane Scarlett, and giving him a 6. And that's simply, I think he could have had a much better rating if any of these players behind him, David, were to be able to play, a decent ball in to some of the fantastic runs that he was giving. I think that rating could have easily gone up if he had been given just any more chances, if people he maybe trusted, to be able to put the ball in behind for him and that he would get to it. It just seemed like he was just making a lot of really excellent, intelligent runs that just no one was playing to. I really don't, again, with Scarlett, I don't want to, say anything negative towards him. I think he was doing all the right things. It's just his teammates weren't helping out, especially in the striker's position, David. I mean, you're just so reliant on your teammates. There's only so much you can do. And it seemed like he was doing all the right things and just no one was helping him. So what are your thoughts on Scarlett?
My thoughts is, look, I just said to the kid, keep doing the right things, keep making them runs. Eventually, you'll end up playing with better players in this Tottenham squad in these games. And your runs will be matched with the ball and you will get your goals. Look, I don't blame the kid whatsoever. He was making runs. He was doing what he was asked to do, get in the box when the ball was out wide. He was doing it odd. Players can't find him. That's not his problem. He tried dropping deep to pick up the ball. They couldn't pass it into his feet. I was either blasting it at him or that. And look, for me, I don't blame the kid for anything that went on last night. He done his job. He kept on plugging away like every good striker does. Keep making them runs. Keep trying to get involved in the game, and maybe something will break for you. So all I'd say to him is keep doing it. And I don't blame him. For me, last night's on all them senior players out there.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the 20-year-old Brian Hill. I think he was actually our best player, in that game, considering that, he was making all the similar runs, maybe like Scarlett, a lot of runs in behind, and then no one was playing him. He then decided, to come short. He was receiving a lot of the hospital passes from the one that shall not be named. He was receiving them most of the time quite well, with a decent touch. There were multiple moments where I thought, he absolutely got clobbered as well by, the Pacos defenders and, wasn't getting a call. It seemed like he just would keep getting up and he would keep going at them. It seemed like he wasn't really especially in the beginning of the game, he seemed to be tearing them apart, seemed to be lighting up the game. Some said he kind of faded out of the game, but I still think, considering if he faded out of the game, still think he was having the most impact, on our team. So we have to just give somebody, the best match rating. And for me, it's going to be Brian Hill, simply because, like I said, he just seemed to, be capable of playing with even a horrible team like this. He knew how to receive the ball well, despite, giving horrible passes the whole game. And as well, he just seemed to always want to be able to turn and run out his defender, turn, give a 1-2. There are multiple moments when he absolutely had some brilliant moments of techers. I think we definitely are seeing the player that we saw in the highlight reel. It's just unfortunate that he was just paired with so many horrible players beneath him and behind him. What do you think, David? Was he your man of the match? For me, I just thought he was the one that was, had the most impact, despite there really being no impact.
He's the only one that had an impact on the game. Let's call a spade here. With that dreadful look, this guy, he's the only one that tried to make things happen going forward. Look, he produced the best chance of the game, Jack, where he absolutely spun the fullback. Fullback thought he was going to cut inside. He spun him on the outside, then cut inside, played the ball into Session. All you have to do is tap it home. The ball gets stuck underneath his clumsy feet. What can he do about it? But apart from that, Jack, there's times he was on the ball. He's sitting there, he's holding it up. Someone going run on the outside, you vacate his space. They don't do it. He constantly had to keep passing it backwards or inside. And then when he didn't want to do that, he was trying to take them on, but then he had no options after that to help him out. For me, I actually felt sorry for him. I think he had a decent debut. Looking at him, it looks like he kind of floats. He doesn't run. He just glides and floats across the pitch, Jack. He's got good techers. The way he maneuvers the ball and manipulates the ball at his feet. I think this guy, honestly, I think he has a good future at Tottenham. Hopefully, he can keep it up. Look, I would like to see better, and I do think you will see a hell of a lot better with better players in that midfield and around him. And I just think it's out of the three debutants, I probably think he was the best. Like we said, my man of the match goes to him. And hopefully more of the same, Jack, more of the same. I felt sorry for him out there trying to make things happen, but look, people just wouldn't help him out. Dane Scarlett was trying to get in the box in that form. But like I said, at times when he's drawing players in, you're just looking for a player to pop it to the side and just run by him. They wouldn't do it. So, I felt sorry for him. But, look, I do think this kid has a bright future. And for me, kind of reminds me a bit of David Ginola. If he can get to the heights of David Ginola, that'd be absolutely awesome. But he has that bit about him. And I think we've got very good talent on our hands here after last night.
100%. And just to run through the player ratings, everybody, just again, we have Galini with a 5.5. We have Carter Vickers with a 0. We have Romero with a 5. Ben Davies with a 3. Matt Doherty with a 1. Just going to skip over the man that played in the middle last night. He gets a non-applicable. With the left-sided left wing back, Sassignon, he got a 5.5. Gio, left-sided center mid, 4. Right-sided center mid, John, who also played a bit up top as well, 4.5. Scarlett, we gave a 6. And Hill got a 6.5. That's the end of our player ratings there. We're looking forward to Wolves. Please check out our previews for that game. Please check out the Stats with Jack coming up on Saturday for the Wolves game. We know it's going to be hopefully a much brighter game, much brighter team in front of us, probably a whole different type of energy and feel to the game. Honestly, I can't forget about this game any sooner.
No, 100%. Look, I can't wait. Honestly, the Wolves are coming up, Jack. Hopefully they're hungry. Me and Ronald McDonald can toss them a few burgers, stuff them. Maybe we'll eat a few ourselves, maybe. But look, what I will say is, guys, you want to know everything there is about Wolves and Tottenham tomorrow, tactically and stats, to back it up. Guys, make sure you tune in for Stats with Jack tomorrow night, 7 p.m., guys. Also, we're going to end it off here. So there's your player ratings. Make sure you smash a like on the stream. Subscribe on the channel if you're new. Most importantly, get your player ratings in the comments below. Let us know whether you agree, disagree, whether you think we're being harsh or whether you think we're being fair. And like I said, until tomorrow, guys, 7 p.m. I'll see you then. Come on, you Spurs. And in Nuno we trust.
In Nuno we trust.
Everywhere we go.